Right, here we go. So today's agenda, what are we doing today? We're going to go over a couple of more examples that you're going to see on your quiz that I feel like are a little tricky. Okay, after that, you're going to get on to LT1. You're going to take the quiz. It's 10 questions, multiple choice. It will be averaged into a major grade. So it's going to be this one, and then the distributive property quiz, and then the variables on both sides quiz. Okay, all three of those will be averaged into one major grade. It's going to be like unit one, solving equations, major grade. And then we're basically taking that as a test. So you're not going to officially have like a test to take just because that's just too complicated. Okay, tomorrow, I'm not going to see you. Remember, you're not going to see any of your teachers. So what you're going to do instead is don't go to the hangout because no one will be there. Please make sure you take attendance because normally, like if you forget to take attendance, but you said hi in the chat box, then at least I can mark you present, but I won't have that tomorrow. So you have to take attendance. Okay, you're going to watch the 2.1 video. You're going to submit your notes through Kami or by taking the picture. So here's a video. Here's a link. Let's see. Your video tomorrow is all of, come on. It's 17 minutes. It's a little bit longer, but it is a review. Okay, so I'm hoping that you're not going to have too many questions on it because we're just talking about inequalities and it's a review. So hopefully it won't be too bad. It'll just be a refresher. And then where do you get your notes? You're going to click here to download a blank copy of your notes. And then you can either do it through Kami. So there should be a button here that says type through Kami, open with Kami, or you can print it out and then take a picture of it and then submit it. Okay, but you do need to submit it. So that's what you're going to be doing tomorrow when your teacher is not here, when any of your teachers are not there. Okay, but for today, you're doing that quiz. So let's do that. So again, please write this down. I think this will help you, give you a couple ideas of, I think some of you are going to get stuck on a couple questions. So I'm going over those questions. And then we'll keep going. Okay, so let's write this down. One question that you're going to see is super, super long and complicated. So I kind of wanted to work through it with you right now. And then maybe you'll have an easier time doing it by yourself later. So it's A equals C X Y Z plus X Y Z squared. So many letters. That's why it's complicated. And what you're going to do is they're going to ask for you to solve for C. So can someone shout out, what's the first thing I have to do? Perfect. So remember how you have to move all this stuff right here, but the rule is you always move the thing that's farthest away. This group of letters is farthest away, so you always do your pluses and minuses first. So you're going to minus xyz squared because xyz squared minus xyz squared is 0. And let me rewrite that. So I have a minus xyz squared equals cxyz. Okay. And remember, I don't divide. The reason why I don't divide is because x divided by x is 1. The same thing divided by the same thing is 1. I don't want 1. I want it completely gone. All right, can someone different shout out? What do I do now? Yes. By what? Exactly. So this is c times x times y times z. So to keep the c, I know I need to move the x and the y and the z, and I can divide, divide, divide. Since they're all the same symbol, divide, 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 I can do it all at once. So do it all at once, x, y, z. So I have as my answer a minus x, y, z squared over x, y, z equals c. So here's the thing. I feel like you can get yourself to this part, but this is not what they're going to have as an answer choice, A, B, C, D. Okay, so they're not going to have it. You're going to be like, what? I got this right. What did I do wrong? So they're going to simplify it even more. And I haven't really talked too much about this. So let me show you. So let me kind of backtrack, okay? If I have a question like this, 2x minus 3 y over y. Like, let's say that's my answer. Technically, I can simplify that, okay? Because I can technically say this is divided by y and that is divided by y. So 2x divided by y, I don't know, that's just 2x over y, right? Because there's no like letters there. Minus, because there's a minus symbol. Okay, look, for this one, I have a y on top and a y on the bottom. Doesn't that kind of cancel out? So don't I just have 3 left over? So do you see how if I break apart this problem, like I divide this, well, I can't, so I just leave it as it is. But when I divide this, a y on top and a y on the bottom, y divided by y is 1. 3 times 1 is just 3. I can simplify this answer to this. So let's do the same thing here. So a is being divided by this, and xyz squared is being divided by that. So if I do that, so a divided by xyz, there's nothing in common. So I just write it as a over xyz. There's nothing in common, so I can't divide anything. Then there's a minus symbol in between. Okay, xyz squared over xyz. Well, isn't x divided by x 1? So that cancels out. Y divided by y 1. So that cancels out. Oh, I have 2 z's on top and 1 z on the bottom. So doesn't that get rid of one of the z's? So don't I just have a single z left over on top? Like if I have 2 z's on top, 1 on the bottom, can't I cancel one pair of them out so I have 1 left over? So then I just have a single z left over, and that equals C. So this answer is what you're going to see as your answer choice, A, B, C, D. Okay, so can you repeat yourself, please? Yes, this is a squared symbol. So let me repeat this part, okay? So if I were to just do this part, x, y, z squared, isn't that the same thing as saying x, y, z, z? Because there's 2 of them. And that's divided by x, y, z, because I was dividing it by x, y, z. So x divided by x is x, or 1. Y divided by y is 1. Z divided by z is 1. I still have a z left over because I had 2 of them. So this one goes over here. So there's 1 left over. So let me show you. Okay, so if I have this right here, isn't this the same thing as saying x, y, z, 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 because I have 4 of them, and this is x, y, z. So x divided by x is 1, y divided by y is 1, z divided by z is 1. How many do you have left over? 3. So you'd write your answer as that, because you still have 3 left over. Are there any other questions on that concept? Because when you read the original problem right here, didn't it just say x, y, z squared? It didn't say parentheses, all of x and y and z is squared. That's if everything is squared. It just said x is 1, y is 1, and then z is 2. Like if you don't see an exponent, you always have an imaginary 1. So that's why that is actually meaning that. If everything were squared, there would be a parentheses around there. Are there any other questions? Okay, let's do another one. That I feel like is going to be one of the harder ones. Okay, I kind of wanted to start with a hard one first, just to wake you up, I guess. Okay, let's do another one. So this one says solve for x. A equals 2x plus 10xy. So, sorry. So I want to solve for x. Here's the problem. Do you see how I can't solve for x? Because I have 2 x's here. Like, so which one do I move? Do I subtract the 10xy or do I subtract the 2x? Because they both have x's. Like, if I want the x's to stay, I can't do anything because there's x's in both parts. So when you have something like that, or if you're just unsure, remember what I taught you yesterday and the day before? You can always double check your answer. So let's say you run into a problem like this for your quiz, because you might. Let's say that there are answer choices, right? Because it is A, B, C, D answer choice, like it is multiple choice. So let's say that here are 2 of my answer choices. I don't know which one it is because I wasn't able to solve this. So remember what I said yesterday? Double check your answer by plugging in random numbers and then replugging it in here to see if it'll work. So let's do that right now. You can always work backwards and check your answer if you didn't want to go forward. And this is one where you can't solve it moving forward. You have to go backwards and check your answer. So let's look at my original problem. I have an A, I have an X, and I have a Y to make up random numbers for. Remember how I said the random numbers you should choose would be 2, 3, 4, 5? Don't do negatives, don't do 1, and don't do 0. So there's one letter in here that it would not make sense for me to choose the answer, like the number for. Do any of you guys remember which letter should I not make one up for? Correct. A. A, I should not, because if I say A is 50, then I have to somehow figure out what numbers times 2, then plus 10 times each other is going to equal 50. I mean, I can do that, but it's going to take me like 5 minutes. So why don't I choose a number for X and choose a number for Y, and then just tell me what A would end up equaling. So let's say X is 2 and Y is 3. Because remember, 2, 3, 4, those are the easiest numbers to choose from. So let me plug it in. So I have 2 times X, which is 2, plus 10 times X, which we said was 2, times Y, which we said was 3. So what does that equal? Equals 64. So do you see how A is 64? Okay. All right. So now since this works for here, let's plug it in this one and see if it'll work out for this. Okay. So for this one, I have a big fraction. So remember how to type a fraction in your calculator? You type alpha, y equals, and then enter. So we have A. We said A was 64 minus 2, so that's on top. On the bottom, 10 times y, we said y was 3. So it should equal x, so my answer should equal 2, and nope, it doesn't equal 2. So I don't think that works. Let's try, okay, that doesn't make sense. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so for this one, let me type it in. Alpha y equals enter. A is 64, so I'm going to put 64 on top. On the bottom, 2 plus 10 times y. Y is 3. So I get 2. So it equals 2. So since this one worked out with these numbers, B has to be the answer. So if you get stuck on the quiz and you truly just, your answers don't match up, what you could do is make up random numbers and then plug and chug them into your answer choices and see what makes sense. Okay, I kind of heard someone talking in the background, but I couldn't really understand. Is there a question? Okay, let's do 2 more. And I promise these are not going to be as hard. And then we're done. Okay, so let's say I have this, and they're asking me to solve for x. 10x plus 18y equals 4y plus 2x. Wait, I have x's on both sides, and they're asking me to solve for x. So can't I, before I do anything, like get my x's on the same side? So can't I subtract 2x on both sides to get rid of the x's here? So really, I just have 8x plus 18y equals 4y. Now I can solve for x. You should be able to do this. So what do you think? What's the first thing I need to do to this problem? Yes, because I want to move the farthest thing, and the farthest thing would be your adding and subtracting, which would be your 18y. So I have 8x equals 4 minus 18, use a calculator if you need to, is negative 14y. Okay, now what do I do, guys? Yes, divide by 8, divide by 8. So I have x equals, okay, negative 14 over 8. Don't write that as your answer because it can be simplified. If you're too lazy to simplify, alpha y equals enter. Type in negative 14 on top, 8 on the bottom. Boom, negative 14 eighths is negative 7 fourths. So you do need to simplify your answer. Negative 7 fourths, and then the y is on top. That's your final answer. Okay, so sometimes you might have to solve it like what we did earlier last week, but then you can slowly solve for your letter. Okay, how is this different than the one we just did? Because there's an x here and an x here. But I told you for this problem, there's an x here and an x here, that you can't solve this problem. Well, the reason why is because, look, they have different endings. You can't combine them. This is an x and this is an xy. Whereas like this one, they're both x's. So you could end up combining them and then getting rid of one of them. Okay, so that's how I know that this is solvable because, well, they have exactly the same ending, x and x. But this one's not solvable because, look, there's an x and an xy. They have different endings. Okay, last one. You try this one by yourself. It's kind of exactly like what we just did that last problem. Okay, so I have 3x plus 2y equals 10x minus 4y. Solve for x. Solve for x. Okay, I'm solving for x. Does anyone think they know what's the first thing you need to do? What's step number 1? Minus, thank you, subtract 3x from both sides. Guys, if you wanted to subtract 10x from both sides, that's fine. Your process is going to look a little different, but your final answer is going to be the same as mine. The reason why subtracting 3x is easier than subtracting 10x is because if you subtract 10, then you get -7. And then negatives, sometimes we just make silly mistakes with negatives. So if this is my step number 2, now what do I do to solve for x? Add 4y. And again, if you had actually subtracted 10x, then your work is going to look a little different than mine, but you're still going to come out with the same answer. And then finally, to solve for x, you divide by 7. So I have x equals 6/7 y. 6/7 you can't simplify. So that's your final answer. Okay? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Any questions?